Well, there's kind of two things that you really have control over in a work environment. One, maybe it's hard, but you could have some control over the distance. So let's say you know that there's a conflict on the horizon, and you could set up the situation in a work environment so that the two parties involved, assuming it's two people, that there is more or less distance between them. So maybe rather than kind of resolving the conflicts in like a workroom setting, maybe it's better to like space out the people that have some problems, or so that maybe one person's in one room and another person's in another room, or maybe one person is in the work building and you wait till another one goes home so that they discuss it over the telephone, so there's greater distance between them. That's one way I think you can apply it, is actually controlling the amount of distance between the parties when you know there's a conflict that needs to be dealt with. The second one may be the timing, and I think this is probably more feasible in just when people deal with conflict. So you may not have so much control over the distance between people when there's a conflict that needs to be dealt with, but you may have more control over when the conflict is actually dealt with. So let's say there are circumstances that you know that are going to create a large amount of distance between people. So one person is going to be traveling, and another person is going to be, let's say, situated in an office. That might be a good opportunity. It's kind of ironic, but that might be a good opportunity to raise an issue or a conflict. It's specifically one that's over something that's minor, because people, when there's greater distance involved, it might be easier for them to resolve it. On the other hand, if there's something that's really big that needs to be dealt with, maybe it's better to wait until those two parties are closer to each other before you deal with it. So let's say some problem happens at work, and one person's either away on vacation or traveling or just out of the office, and you might think, well, let's deal with this conflict right away. But if it's over something that's pretty major, it might be better to wait until you got the two parties closer to each other, so that they're putting less emphasis on those big issues, and it might be easier for them to resolve it. An example that I was struck with, maybe a lot of people have been captivated or focusing on the issues with the negotiations in Congress, and the president, the debt ceiling, and all this issue about should we raise taxes, should we cut spending, and all this stuff. And one of the things I was struck with is where the president, he made this comment where he was saying, well, we didn't make any progress today, but we're going to keep meeting again, and we'll meet tomorrow, and we'll meet tomorrow. And he kept putting this emphasis on bringing the two parties together in a room to talk it out. And I would argue that this is a situation where the parties involved have some pretty major differences, some conflicts over some big issues. And it's almost like he sensed that it's better to try to resolve these big issues closer to each other